Bartłomiej and Katarzyna were happy young parents of their daughter Magdalena. But when Magdalena was 6 months old, their lives turned into nightmare. On January 23rd, 2012, around 6 p.m., a report of child abduction was received at a police station in Sosnowiec, Poland. No one anticipated that this would become one of the most high-profile criminal cases in Poland. According to the mother's account, her child was abducted on Tuesday evening during a walk. Katarzyna claimed she had been struck on the back of the head, and then attacker took her child. And police reconstructed the road taken by Katarzyna and her daughter and determined the location of the alleged attack, which took place between apartment blocks in a housing estate in the city. After releasing Magdalena's image, many people came forward eager to assist in the search. Search for little Magdalena involved national media from the beginning. A large-scale search effort was launched, including riverbed searches and helicopter surveillance. Also, a reward for finding the child. Entire community relied to find her, and the police checked every man seen with a small child under 1 year old. Katarzyna was examined by psychologists, and her account was deemed credible. Everyone sympathized with Magdalena's family, wondering who could have abducted such a small child and why. First media appearance was meant to appeal to the kidnapper to return the child. However, as journalists asked more questions, parents began to appear on television frequently. Also, it was very popular child abduction case in Poland back then. The public and media initially accepted the mother's version of events. Over time, more details emerged, suggesting things might not have been as they seemed. Katarzyna's statements included an unusual amount of detail about her last walk with her daughter. Normally, people don't recall so many specifics, especially after the shock of child's abduction. Furthermore, Katarzyna claimed she was hit on the back of the head, causing her to fall beside the stroller. However, an impact strong enough to cause unconsciousness would likely push her forward, yet she was found next to the stroller. And she reported pain at the injury site. She showed no reaction when the area was touched unexpectedly. Additionally, Katarzyna referred to her daughter in the past tense, saying things like, Magdalena was a sweet child. She also made statements like, even if she is found, which seemed odd for a grieving mother who should have had hope that her daughter was alive. The search for a 6-month-old Magdalena continued, and very famous Polish detective Krzysztof Rutkowski joined the effort. He initially proposed 2 scenarios: abducting for illegal adoption or emotional motive. The detective was contacted by the lawyer of Katarzyna's husband, Bartłomiej, for assistance. And Rutkowski noted that while the father was actively in giving interviews, the mother seemed to avoid media and as she was afraid to say something wrong. Rutkowski observed that Katarzyna avoided camera, appearing as she had something to hide. Typically, parents of missing children ask Rutkowski's team to remain present in case of crucial calls, as they can handle negotiations with kidnappers. However, Magdalena's mother refused the offer for his team to stay with them. As suspicions grew, both parents agreed to take a polygraph test. Father passed, but mother, visibly shaken, was unable to participate in this test. And on February 2nd, 2012, Rutkowski confronted Katarzyna, claiming that he had witnesses who could confirm there was no attack. conversation recorded on a hidden camera led Katarzyna to admit that her child had fallen from her arms and she had faked the attack out of fear. She claimed the baby had slipped out of her blanket and hit her head, and then Magdalena died instantly, and mother hid the body, confessing 11 days after her daughter's disappearance. Katarzyna was initially charged with involuntary manslaughter, punishable by up to 5 years in prison in Poland. The next day, she led authorities to the place where she had hidden her daughter's body, and that night, in an old abandoned building under a pile of rubble, little girl's body was discovered. Due to extreme cold reaching as low as -20°C, an autopsy could not immediately be conducted, and once the autopsy was performed, it revealed that Magdalena had died from suffocation. Bruising on her head suggested it may have occurred post-mortem, possibly while her body was being buried. Bruises and marks indicated that she had likely been forcibly smothered, possibly with a hand or pillow. In July 2012, after receiving the final forensics report, the charge was elevated to homicide. Mother was arrested, though she was later released under court orders to regularly report to the police due to conflicting expert opinions. As the investigation continued, Katarzyna gave shocking interviews, portraying herself almost as if she enjoyed the publicity. She spoke about having more time for herself and was seen in a provocative photo shoots. She expressed that she missed her husband but was content, remarks that horrified the public. Her behavior displayed a chilling disregard, especially given she was a murder suspect in her daughter's death. Over a year after the tragedy in Sosnowiec, the trial for Katarzyna finally began. During the proceedings, she showed no reaction to graphic descriptions of her daughter's death. 40 witnesses were called, and the prosecution presented its case, stating that on January 24, 2012, at her home in Sosnowiec, Katarzyna stripped her daughter from outer clothing and threw her onto the floor, causing her to lose consciousness. The prosecution alleged that Katarzyna then smothered her child by obstructing her airflow for several minutes, leading to her death. The child died between 4 and 5 p.m. that day, and Katarzyna then dressed her child, placed her in a stroller, and took her to a nearby park where she buried her in a shallow grave. DNA evidence, including burnt cigarette found at the scene, tied her to the burial site, and afterwards she abandoned the stroller in a residential area, lying down on the pavement to simulate an assault, waiting to be found by passers-by. Katarzyna maintained her innocence, claiming her daughter's death was a tragic accident. However, court sentenced her to 25 years in prison with the possibility of parole after 20 years.